Hi everybody, and welcome to A Case of the Jills. You guys must think I live in an empty house. It is officially summer, which means it's typically the season where we see the biggest surge of stupid information with regard to diet and fitness. Whether it's somebody trying to convince you that you need to look a certain way to fit into a bathing suit, or if it's someone trying to convince you of a certain way to train in order to be able to participate in all of your summer and fall races. A lot of what you're getting is trash. Let me clarify that for a moment. Perhaps some of that information could be useful to the general population, but let's face it, we're not the general population. If you're watching this video, chances are you're having trouble with exercising too much and possibly not fueling enough. It's important that you keep this in mind, especially when you're out there consuming information on fitness and health, nutrition, and sports training. Most of the messages that you're seeing in the media are directed toward the 95% of the population who could, as we've been told, we've been made to understand, probably be benefited by doing a bit more physical activity. This same population of people might be benefited by eating in a way that is more consistent with health guidelines, whatever those are. However, for our population, some of that general advice for general health actually could make us sicker. I want to point this out today because lots of times when I talk to clients, they are legitimately confused by some of the quote-unquote health information that they're receiving through the media. Just so we're clear, for the entirety of this video, when I'm talking about health, I mean the air quotes health, the one that we've been told is synonymous with words like fitness, but we know are really not the same thing. For the purposes of the people who are watching this video, so that's the people that are exercising too much and probably not eating enough, health and fitness are two very different things. Therefore, it's important for us to remember when we consume this information, we are not the norm, we are the outlier. I personally have over 3 years of experience researching this topic at school, and I can promise you that every single time I have this conversation about our particular population with top names in psychology, doctors, fitness professionals, coaches, and researchers in general, they are often dumbfounded by the common practices in our tiny little niche. They actually are not prepared to think about the ways in which their general advice is sort of twisted and warped in our group. Just to make sure that you, my community, understand what I'm talking about, I decided to go through some websites, magazines, Instagram accounts, and pull out some articles that have what is considered to be general health information and suggestions or advice about training and nutrition. And I wanted to show you how dangerous they can be for our community and how much they absolutely do not pertain to us. I actually have my computer right here because I wanted to show you some of these articles. I wanted to actually quote directly from some of them because it's really incredible. Also, it's important to know it really isn't my idea to bash websites and magazines today, but some of these are so problematic that I really feel like I have to say something. I'm not sure what kind of websites on fitness or health you guys consume, but if you possibly go to womenshealthmag.com, yeah, it's a dumpster fire. Some of the wonderful headlines on this website this week are the following. Let's see. Elizabeth Hurley just showed off her abs in a nearly topless Instagram photo. Great! She's standing in a sultry pose with a cardigan sweater on and no top. All right then. We also have Carrie Underwood just kicked off summer with an absolutely bikini Instagram. See what I did there? It's just like a festival of body shaming on here. I mean, I can go on, but I think you get the point. But one of the more problematic articles actually that at first glance seems to make a little bit of sense is this one. It's actually about a woman, a regular woman, not Elizabeth Hurley and her boobs. It's about a regular woman who is on what she calls a run streak, and she's doing this to cope with the death of her parents. This is the kind of headline we see all the time when it comes to running. We are told that something like a run streak is a really great way to hold yourself accountable to getting in that run every day. And I know that this varies in form and flavor across the running community, but it is generally accepted that you're supposed to run every day, even if it's just 1 mile. This is incredibly problematic for our community for obvious reasons. For those of us for whom a day of rest is actually more important than a day of training, committing to a run streak is something that actually is counterproductive. The other part of this you've heard me talk about ad nauseum on this channel. It is important for us to understand that yes, physical activity can help us manage mental health, but it is not the only thing we should be using to manage mental health. Now, it doesn't say whether or not this woman is actually seeking mental health care in concert with her run streak, but I just have to point out here that physical activity, no matter how good it feels, is never going to be a complete replacement for adequate mental health care. Just want to say that. Let's switch over to Runner's World. Runner's World, in my opinion, is always problematic. It has always been problematic. They're always famous for their, new year, new you headlines. They always want to sell you on running so that you can get abs and all these wonderful things. I really have a problem with Runner's World, I always have. But I do want to focus on one article in particular that I think is problematic because of the fact that it's kind of like a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm not going to call out the actual name of the athlete that is featured in this article, but let's just call her Jane Doe. And this is supposed to be Jane Doe's guide to injury-free running. So on this article right here, there is a photograph of a very, 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 very thin runner. I'm not body shaming anyone. I'm not judging her at all. I'm just saying that she's a very thin, lean runner, and she is talking about the fact that she had stress fractures in the past. I'm just gonna leave that there. Her guide to preventing running injuries is a guide to doing hip activation exercises and foam rolling. And I'll tell you why I don't love this. So first of all, I think it's great that she wants to have us learn from her experience. That's awesome. I think it's great that she's a successful runner now after having recovered from certain injuries, but any guide that is talking about injury prevention that does not talk about rest and nutrition as a proper way to manage injury, to me, is really dramatically lacking something. Think about it this way. For people in our population, let's say that we are getting run down because we're overtraining, we don't get a period, our bone density is an issue, we might be on the verge of a stress reaction or a stress fracture, and we're like, what can I do to prevent injury? We come to Runner's World and we see this article that's telling us to do more strength exercises. Yeah, no. This is what I mean by media that might be directed toward the general population, but for people like us could actually be more problematic. If we're in that situation, the last thing we need is more exercise, we need more sleep and more good nutrition. Speaking of dumpster fires, have you ever been to the Oxygen magazine website? Oh boy, let me tell you, I don't really know where to start with this. Oxygen magazine, if you're not familiar with it, is kind of like a women's fitness magazine. To be honest with you, I think back in the day, this is where I first learned about macro counting and stuff like that, back when I used to teach spin and work at a gym and all this stuff. Oh, yeah, I used to teach spin. Did I tell you that? More surprises from Auntie Jill. Anyway, this website is a complete disaster. It's just filled with images of impossible bodies that are just like not attainable for the normal person. The nutrition advice is painful, but I really, really want to focus on this particular article. I want to read to you right from this article because it is, oh my God, yeah. So the article is called The 14-Day Summer Nutrition Reset. I think you can already see where this is going. Let me just start with the first line of the article, which says, diets have helped millions of people get fit and lose weight. Just so we're clear, current research into dieting shows us that 85% of diets actually fail. Per a meta-analysis of studies on diets from UCLA, here's what I have to say. Not only do the diets have an 85% failure rate, but over 2/3 of dieters actually regain weight plus more within 4 years. So this article is going to give us a bunch of nutrition tips, and here's what it says. Adopt one of these food or lifestyle adjustments per day and ease into your bikini like a boss. A super lean, take no prisoners boss who makes performance nutrition look easy. Oh, God. Okay, all jokes aside, come on, let's get serious. I really just want to go through some of the nutrition tips on here. I am not going to lie, a couple of them are good. So it tells you to drink more water. It says don't be afraid of eating things with fat. It says to chew your food better. That's great. It tells you to get sleep. I love all of that. Then it goes and starts to get a little crazy. These people are very judgy about carbohydrates. They don't want you to just eat carbohydrates. They want you to eat specific carbohydrates. None of that refined stuff. They want you to have the whole grains. While that's a great idea, for people in our population, it doesn't really matter where you get your carbohydrates. It just matters that you get them. It also invites us to drink caffeine for additional fat burning. Okay, for people in our population, this is a no-no. A couple of cups of coffee a day are okay, but the last thing we want to do is jack up our stress hormones by adding more caffeine. Doesn't matter about our anhydrous thermogenesis, oxidation, theobromine, blah, 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 blah. No, 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 no. This article also invites us to snack on protein-rich options only. In fact, it suggests eating things like Greek yogurt, a handful of almonds, protein powder. How the hell are you supposed to eat protein powder by itself? And hard-boiled eggs. Ugh. Anyway, these are fine snacks if you add a starchy carbohydrate and maybe a fat along with it. For our population, eating just plain protein is not going to help us achieve hormonal balance. So this advice might be like okay on a bro diet, but it's certainly not for us. Another sneaky part of this article that it invites us to be really specific about portioning out foods, planning ahead, and doing that meal prep thing. And I'll tell you why I have a problem with this. If you made a whole bunch of sweet potatoes at the beginning of the week and you're like rationing them through the week because you want to make it last, you just might not be eating enough each day. Sometimes at the beginning of recovery, a lot of us see what we need to eat visually as a very small amount. And then when we eat that amount, we get frustrated when we're extra hungry. So if you're portioning out and doing meal prep all week long, you might be under eating just to kind of like achieve the size visually that you thought was gonna be enough. You have to be prepared to eat extra, you're probably gonna need it. They tell you to take fish oil pills. This one's not really problematic for our population, but they do make me burp. Then there's some other kind of information here, which like starts off going good and then goes straight down a rabbit hole of hell. They tell you it's really good to eat potatoes. I love that. It says that potatoes help you stay full and happy while scoring high on general deliciousness. Yes. However, it tells us that the reason why we should do that is because a potato any time of day can prevent a comfort food binge. That could not be more wrong on so many levels that like my brain actually hurts. Aside from that, what's wrong with eating comfort foods? The idea of eating something to prevent you from eating something else, this is such a no for our population. Eat what you want, eat what you crave, eat when you want, eat as much as you need to. Eat a potato because you like a potato. Like, that's it. The coup de grace, the piece de resistance of this article tells you, and I'm not even lying here, this is a direct quote, it says, go hungry. And then it goes into some blah 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 about intermittent fasting. I need deep breaths. Okay, listen, you've heard me say this before, but let me just repeat it. The majority of sports nutrition studies are done on college-age men. Why is that? Because that's who is available on college campuses. Women are typically excluded from research on sports nutrition and training. Why? Because their hormonal fluctuations, which are normal by the way, typically throw off the data. And just in case you're wondering whether or not there should be gender differences with regard to nutrition requirements for athletes, all the way back in 2003, there was an extensive literature review on the topic done by Mark Tarnopolsky. He showed that across the board, there are discernible gender differences with regard to carbohydrate needs and protein needs as well. If you read the Stacy Sims book, Roar, which I talk about in almost every video, she goes into detail on this. And she also talks about differences in hydration as well, which is really important if we're talking about sports performance. It's very important that our population understand that things like macronutrient and caloric manipulation, intermittent fasting, low carbohydrate diets, keto diet, Atkins if you're old like me, HIIT training, fasted training, even things like taking pre-workout, which is caffeinated before going to do a workout. These things do not work for our population. They do not pertain to us, and we would be best to just forget about them entirely. By the way, this also goes for the carnivores, the fruitarians, and the crazy banana people. I could have gone through a bunch of other websites and Instagram accounts, but my gosh, after this, I just don't think it's necessary. Do not be fooled by the training and nutrition advice that you might find online. Try to think about who those articles are directed toward and realize that if you are in the population of people that is either headed toward overtraining syndrome or hypothalamic amenorrhea or trying to get out of both of those, this information does not apply to you. General health and fitness information has to be seen through the lens of our population's needs. If you have questions about this, if you'd like to talk about this in detail, you can schedule a mentoring call with me at acaseofthejills.com. You can also send me an email at acaseofthejills@gmail.com. You have to be a smart consumer of this stuff. Do not be deterred from your goals. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you have suggestions for topics that you'd like me to cover, go ahead and comment below. I hope you're having a wonderful week wherever you are, and I will see you again soon. Thanks for watching.